everybody. I'm Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
Welcome to another amazing episode of VO Buzz Weekly.
That's right, and we got a cool show for you guys today. We have Bill Ratner on the show, so stick around.
Absolutely. So let's get right to the tip of the week, Chuck. What do you have for us?
I have something really cool. This is a great exercise for everybody. And what it is this. This is going to help you be in complete control of what character and what voice you bring to the table on any read. Okay, and you always want to be in control. I know I like being in control. So here's what I want you to do. Find yourself a 30 or 60-second spot. It could be a commercial spot or a narrative piece or whatever you're into. And make sure it's something challenging, not something that's, too easy or anything like that. And take all your voices, like all the voices on your commercial demo or narration demo or animation demo or whatever, how you have all your different guys or girls. Take all those views and try them on that one script and be that person. Now, here's the trick. Make sure that you change your energy, your attitude, your volume, your pace. Make sure that the levels are different because all those guys and girls are supposed to be. And what this is going to do is going to enable you to always be in control of what guy or what girl comes out of you when you're at an audition, which is going to just help you perform a lot better.
Right. And making sure to stay
consistent all the way through. Yeah, don't start with one person and then all of a sudden end with another, okay? And so do this, okay? Do this. Let us know how it works out for you, okay?
Cool.
What else we got?
I would like to share a book with you guys.
It's a beautiful book.
It is my recent read. I, as you know, am the announcer for Family Game Night on The Hub.
Yes, you are.
And the host, the amazing host of the show, is Todd Newton. In addition to being a game show host, he is a life coach and a keynote speaker, motivational speaker, and an author. And he's written this book called Life in the Bonus Round.
Nice.
And it's funny, it's poignant, it's self-help, it's memoir. It's really, really good.
I take it you've read that book.
I have, cover to cover. And Todd autographed it. So
nice.
But anyway, you can go to his website, toddnewtononline.com, and check it out. Could be a great holiday gift for somebody. Get them going in the right direction for the new year, right?
Sounds like a good plan to me.
And we're going to go in the right direction to Bill Ratner, you guys.
Let's go.
Our guest is a man that you hear all the time on network TV promos and narration, movie trailers like The Campaign and The Rum Diary, and countless affiliate stations around the country. He is the voice of Flint on the original G.I. Joe animated series. He is an engaging storyteller, an award-winning storyteller, and a public speaker. We are so excited to cap off an amazing first year of VO Buzz Weekly with the charming and talented Bill Ratner.
Bill Ratner.
I'm a real audio guy. I just slapped the microphone.
He just slapped the microphone.
But it's probably...
well, he's used to microphones being right about here, right?
They're not usually fixed.
Welcome to VO Buzz Weekly.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the show.
But I slapped it gently, so it'll be kind of like a
a little poof.
A little poof.
Yeah.
Or like a heartbeat.
Yeah, like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Kind of like
welcome.
Thank you.
So, you know what? I got. First of all, I want to jump in real quick and just say that I know that you're super busy. Everybody knows that Bill's
very late
busy.
here right
What time is it?
It's late. It's late. I mean, his family's calling him saying, "Where are you?" So thank you so much for coming down, spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. They really appreciate it. And so we're glad you're here, man.
I'm glad I'm here too.
Cool. I'm going to start off by asking you a question that I've never asked anybody on the show before. You're the first guy. Tell us how your voiceover career got started.
I was 5 years old, and no, actually, it's true. I was a lucky kid. My dad was an advertising guy. He was a good guy, and would bring me to Campbell Methune ad agency, which was gigantic hams, beer, Betty Crocker, blah blah blah. And so I met announcers. This is a radio announcer, and he does this, and this is the orchestra, and they do this for the commercials, and so on. Right. And so I had. I think the advertising business is really fit for 5- and 6-year-old mentality anyway. And so I sort of understood a little bit about the business, and then I was watching Axel Anderson. We'll be right back with some more silly cartoons after this. And a voice came on, and this is the 50s, so the announcing was a little stranger. The protocols were different. And he goes, "This commercial message will be 60 seconds long." And I went, 60 seconds? I think I stopped breathing. And I counted, And, Oldsmobile for 1953, rolling across the screen with a happy family of 4 waving out the window. And then it was over, and I ran into the kitchen and said, Mom, I know what a minute is. And she said, did you learn that in kindergarten, honey? And no, the man on TV. So I was fully conscious of this guy who was invisible with this beautiful stentorian voice, who sort of marked time for us. And from that time on, I think announcers had more to say in the 50s on television. The Philco Radio Hour is brought to you by, and they would go on and on and on. Live, standing somewhere in a booth. So these are real pros, literally wearing tuxedos.
Yeah.
The CBS network announcers in New York, Chicago, and LA, per their contract, had to wear tuxedos into the 60s. When people were showing up in flip-flops and Bermudas, for the network shows that were filmed here. But that's to answer your question. And then in 6th grade,
moving from 5 years old to 6th grade now.
There was a kind of a hiatus there. That happens in careers.
He took a long nap, and now he's back.
It was a slow time.
My friends John Waterhouse, Skipper Hastings, Steve Gray, and Bill Connors, who, I'm sorry, Bill, we later blackballed for inactivity, formed the Brotherhood of Radio Stations.
Nice. Is that still going strong today?
I did have lunch with Steve Gray about 6 years ago, and we reminisced.
I love it.
I am the embodiment of the Brotherhood of Radio Stations. But I literally bought a 5-watt AM transmitter from Night Kit Corporation in Chicago. And my dad and I were going to put it together, and it was going to be Dad and Sunday, and he's going, Dad, relax, just relax, just let me have the soldering gun. And I got this thing together, and my cousin gave me a 1/4-inch tape recorder and a Shure microphone, and I built a switch box out of a shoebox, which happens to be made of cardboard and paper, and it's quite flammable. But
oh boy,
I think
you only did that once.
Only burned one, and then my dad got me a piece of linoleum and some pine.
Nice.
So and we would broadcast. I mean, we would torture the neighbors, and I had
that is so funny.
Where would you just find your material?
We would make
What
it up.
inspired
I
you
mean,
guys?
we would do phony phone calls that were just horrible, cruel things to neighbors about dead bodies being on their roofs, and that medical procedure that you've been asking about. We have to do it this Saturday, and things like that.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
And we made up games. I mean, it was just pure imitation. It was like it was exactly the way television is made today.
Sure.
By imitation of what's preceded it.
Right.
So that's what we did.
So when was the break when you went from
childhood to adulthood,
playing around to like saying, you know what, I'm going to do this to make money?
Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
When was it? I did some acting as a kid in Minnesota theater, which was fun, and went to film school at City College of San Francisco. To study filmmaking, because I'd always wanted to study filmmaking. I didn't want to be a director. I just wanted to study film. I loved film. And I had a teacher, I was about 27, a guy who had written Bonanza and Harlem Detective, the great Larry Menken, an old writer who retired and decided to teach kids in film school. You're going to narrate the class film. And I went, okay. And started getting hired by these adjunct teachers who were industrial filmmakers and educational filmmakers. And had one guy say, the only direction I'm going to give you is, I want you to speak so that the little green light that's in front of you, there was no green light, it was in his head, doesn't get too bright and doesn't dim out. And I've never forgotten that direction. I still don't know exactly what it means.
But you're doing it.
But, I remembered it. And then I got an agent up there. Nothing really happened. Got into radio, suburban AM radio. Well, this is KKISS 99, which was fun. And then came down here and started taking voiceover classes from a genius like you named Johnny Rabbit.
Johnny Rabbit.
And who had been a big Dick Clark radio guy and took classes, and I actually got the advice to do so. I had no idea there was such a thing as a voiceover class. Because luckily for us, voiceovers are really not taught in college. I asked a young woman who just graduated from Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, arguably one of the greatest communication schools for performers, for journalists in the country. Did you study voiceovers? She had BFA in acting. I think we had like a week of it in a commercial acting class. And I went, yes, don't start teaching it in college. But Ralph Pizzella in the sales department of KKISS 99 said, hey, dude, when you get down there, you should study voiceovers. And I said, what are voiceovers? He said, you know, that CVS commercial you just did 55 tags for? Yeah. You're getting 165 a week. The guy who did that commercial made $2.85. $2.85? And I went, oh. And he gave me a name. Johnny Rabbit.
Right.
And so I went to study with him.
Go see Johnny Rabbit.
I didn't stop workshops for 6 years.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure that you guys get calls all the time saying, well, I took the course for 6 weeks. What do I do now?
Yeah, now I'm ready to do a demo and get a home studio.
Right.
And,
No, it doesn't quite happen that fast.
So I did literally like undergraduate and graduate school, like 6 years. I just didn't stop until my agent at the time, Rita Venari, said, stop. You're working.
Yeah.
The people who you're working for are your directors. Stop.
Yeah. Enough with the classes.
Oh, okay. It was just so fun.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah. The truth is, I got my first agent by taking a voiceover workshop. And, I mean, I never knew that I was OCD before. I've never been really diagnosed because I don't want to take
How did you discover this?
Still a secret.
In voiceovers.
Were you cleaning the booth, or what were you doing?
Yeah, over and over. No, my house is filthy. My studio is filthy.
Nice.
I mean, this is like, you know, the Ritz. But I really started enjoying like editing, and I would just be obsessive about my demo. I would do a 15-minute spot, and I would just completely redo the whole demo. And but in taking workshops over and over and over, I met producers who are still friends of mine who still hire me. My first agent, bless her soul, the great Donna Davies. At the Buckeye Agency. I mean, so that's one thing that's missing from sort of the arsenal of VOIQ for people starting out in voiceover is, what do I do? Study. I mean, I was taking acting classes here long ago, and Ted Danson, who was already on Cheers, was in the class, and I asked the director, I said, why is he here? He likes to work out. He thinks it's good for him.
Yeah.
And you know, 30 years later, the man's still working. He's a wonderful actor.
Yeah, it's a safe place to try things.
Got to keep the chops up, man.
Yeah.
Well, kind of want to know, was there a turning point for you where you went from auditioning a lot to working a lot? Can you put your finger on something that shifted for you?
I was doing morning radio on FM 104.3. This easy listening radio with a newsman. It was fun. And we were being asked to do more and more and come in earlier, and finally I realized, wait a minute, I'm making more money outside doing voiceovers than radio. And the great Jack Angel had said, get out of radio. Get out of radio. And I said, why? Because it'll kill you. You'll die. And
that's an incentive.
There was a wonderful guy on radio here for years and years on KMPC AM, a morning man in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, Sweet Dick Whittington. And he said one time, he said, when you swing your legs over your bed at 4:30 in the morning and they hit the floor and you begin to cry uncontrollably, that's when you need to leave radio. And fortunately that didn't happen. Yeah. But so I said to my boss at KBIG, K-Big.
K-Big.
Hi.
KBIG,
yeah.
I said double my pay, which was $42,000 a year.
Yeah.
Double my pay or I'm out of here. And they consulted for a week and offered me a 15% raise. And I said, I'm out of here.
Gotta go.
And so that was a turning point.
Yeah.
I'd been in radio for a long time
Yeah.
and enjoyed it and thought, well, that's what I am. I'm a radio announcer and I have a job and a career in voiceover that's really cool, but I could never, and then I did. And so that, and I was like, how old was I? 38 years old. And that's, I mean, there've been a lot of interesting sort of plateaus, and it just keeps going. I mean, the good news for me, for whatever reason, having nothing to do with IQ, good looks, or talent, it just keeps on keeping on.
That's really cool, man. That's very cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's really nice. So you're an award-winning storyteller. Tell us a little bit about that.
Once upon a time.
I'm going to need some cookies in there if we're going to do this.
Years ago it was we want a strong announcer. Then then for years, you've seen this all on copy. We don't want announcers. We want actors.
Yeah.
Then the advertising business shifted their nomenclature from actors. We want real people. We don't want an announcer at all. We want real people. And now, as you've noticed for the last 5 years, is we want storytellers.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and that's a good direction.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, when that began,
you were like, "Ooh, I can tell stories."
Ooh.
Right? Yeah. I'm trying to conflate two things that just don't fit together. I'm trying to make logic here. It's not happening. The Moth at themoth.org, which was a storytelling scene in New York that would do a month at a bar in the Bronx, and it would do one evening a month. And now there are 5 venues in New York City, and they have road shows, and celebrities do them, and so on. And you put your name in the hat, and you get the theme, and so on. And they brought one to L.A. in like 2007. A friend of mine told me about it, and I was in New York at the time, and I said, "Well, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do this." Because Jonathan Ames, who was a TV writer, raconteur, was doing it, and I thought, "Well, I got a great story on that theme. I'll do it." And I called him up and said, "I'm going tonight. Are you going to be there?" And he goes, "It's next week. It's not tonight." I have a story. What do I do? And he said, "But there's one in L.A." So I went on their website, and the next week went to this funky little club on Hillhurst, and there were about 35 people there, and I stumbled up to the stage. When they called my name, they literally put your name in a hat. It's like open mic.
Exactly.
But they don't call it that.
Yeah.
It's a slam. They call it a story slam.
Right.
Yeah.
And I told my story. I got heckled within the first 5 minutes.
It's a good sign.
Yeah. She yelled out, "Good." It was about quitting a job or something. Good. She was a Scientologist. No, I don't know what she was. And so I got addicted to telling stories and
getting heckled
in bars and getting heckled. Yeah.
But you've won 7 or 8 times the Moth Story
8
Slam.
times.
8 times.
These slams go on.
Pretty good, Bill Ratner.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You're almost at double digits, baby.
Must be a pretty good storyteller.
Yeah.
Accounting for taste. And it's interesting. The scene, it's odd because it's storytelling. The scene is 20 and 30-somethings. I mean, the average age is like 36 years old, max.
Yeah.
And the places are packed. Zanzibar in Santa Monica, Busby's in Mid-Wilshire, Los Globos in Echo Park. Once a month, they have story slams for the Moth. Packed.
I didn't
Standing
even know
room
these
only.
things existed.
It's a big
And
deal.
it's personal stories. And my theory is that people who are in their 20s and 30s working in their screen time, their entire life is screen time, and they just go to these clubs just to listen to other people who look like them tell crazy stories.
Right.
Well, I've seen a clip of you telling the story about your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great. It's
A lot
great.
of cursing in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beep, beep,
We
beep.
don't curse
But
on VO Buzz.
but no, you definitely have, and you are on NPR. You have your stories on NPR.
The Moth and KCRW FM 89.9 have this relationship. KCRW sponsors the Moth, and the Moth Radio Hour is a national program, and so it was the business, the show, the business was syndicated.
Yeah.
And I went and I told a story about my Uncle Bobby, who was Bobby the Bellboy and I Love Lucy. Mrs. Ricardo, it's Bobby. Knock, knock.
Yeah.
And he led a strange life, and so I just told that story. And a week later, and I won in the slam, which was great, which means you go on to the Grand Slam down at the Echoplex, the big rock club downtown. And but I got a call from somebody saying, "Hey, they're airing those Moth stories of the business." And I said, "Really?" And I emailed them, and they said, "No, we haven't aired yours yet." And I didn't want to say, well, I won the slam.
I am the champion, yeah.
You know, well, if you decide to air my story, let me know. I'd love to tune in. And it was like a month went by, and they aired a couple of other stories that were a little more sort of upbeat and cute and funny. They were great, terrific. And then like 6 weeks later, I get an email. We're airing your story. And somebody said, they probably had to check with Paramount to see if it was legal.
If it was legal, exactly.
Because I said some things that were not particularly complimentary and that were factual about what Desi Arnaz did with his actors and buyouts.
You've got some opinions, Bill. You've got some opinions. He's not afraid to share them either.
Comes from
he's not.
Comes from the mousetrap and the toes. You know. Yeah. It's a terrible thing.
He's a rebel. Yeah. That's cool, man. Thanks for sharing that. So let me ask you, if you know somebody, a voice actor who's out there, he's in the trenches, trying to make it in this business, what advice would you give them? Like, what are some tips that you can give them?
I would say immediately start taking workshops. And I don't teach workshops. I'm not in that business.
Yeah.
I don't have a book. I don't have a CD. I don't do demo tapes. I don't teach workshops. So when I say take workshops, that was the way that I learned how to do voiceovers. Because voiceovers, as you guys know, is a weird art.
Yeah.
And I liken it to what the musicians do on Jimmy Kimmel's band or the Tonight Show band or Letterman's band.
Yeah.
These are top crack studio musicians
Yeah.
who can do, she's not Portuguese, oh no, she's Brazilian. And boom, in a minute and a half, they've got the arrangement done and they're playing it and they're rehearsing it for 40 seconds.
Yeah, pros.
Yeah.
Top notch.
And that's kind of like what we do.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's say you studied violin as a kid and you hadn't picked it up for 12 years and somebody said, in 6 months you're going to give a concert at Carnegie Hall playing piano. Well, you'd have to start and practice a whole lot.
You'd have to take a voiceover class.
Yeah, you have to take a voiceover class right there.
Because that'll help.
Yeah, because you have to apologize. I'm sorry, I don't know how to play the piano.
Yeah, exactly. That's good.
So... Yeah, but I mean it's what we do is about embouchure and it's about tone and mood and volume and intention and what am I selling and who am I talking to and who am I, all those things at once. It's a weird hybrid. And
controlling all of them.
Yeah,
learning how to control them. Yeah,
it's a hybrid art. It's a commercial art. I see it as a commercial art, and I don't put myself down. I'm a commercial artist.
Yeah,
it's commissioned by the marketplace. Yeah. It's to sell seats in the theater or potato chips. Commissioned by people who say, you say this, and we're the ones who have to figure out how to say it.
Yeah. Well, it blows me away sometimes because people, try and get into the voiceover business and are like, oh, yeah, I want to be a voice actor. I want to get in and make some quick, easy cash for Christmas or something. And it's like, what they don't realize is that, this is a big business. I mean, your whole career has been based now around voiceovers, and you can make a ton of dough in this business if you treat it like a business, right?
Yeah,
so It's like, educate yourself, become great, not good. People don't want to hire good anymore, do they? Maybe they do.
If they're real people and storytelling.
There you go.
Yeah.
So become great, and then you'll have a shot, right, at being Bill Ratner for...
I mean, I'm from the Midwest. I was born in Des Moines, raised in Minneapolis, and I really, maybe it's because of that. Minnesota, nice.
Minnesota?
Yeah, oh yeah. I see myself as a small businesman. I really do.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm incorporated in the state of California, and my name is on a corporation, and I hire marketing people occasionally, and this and that, and
you have a bank account.
Yes, I do. I have two.
Yes,
two.
My! He is in business.
And a car.
But did you approach it even when you were starting, before you had ongoing campaigns and clients? Did you? Can you give us some examples of what you did?
I mean, I was lucky
business?
Because in high school I worked at ad agencies as an errand boy, and I would steam open applicants' envelopes, and I never destroyed anything.
No.
But I just wanted to see, who are these people from Harvard and Columbia and Yale who are applying to work at Campbell Methuen Ad Agency where I worked.
So you're trying to eliminate your competition, or?
Well, I would take a flame to it. No. I was 18 years old. I was an errand boy. But so, I mean, I knew kind of from the inside out what the advertising business was about, and that it was a business, and a lot of pounding the pavement and this and that. And so when I was in my first workshop here, I got my first gig, which is pure luck.
Yeah.
a friend was doing a strip show for ABC called Heroes of Rock and Roll with Jeff Bridges as the host. They had put the whole thing together. They were new filmmakers. They were very lucky. They had forgotten that you needed a bumper for the networks. You needed a couple of bumpers and billboards. Coming up, Elton John, the Beatles, and Elvis Presley. They didn't have them in there. And the network said, where are the bumpers and billboards? We're not going to pay for them. Get them done. And your budget ain't going up. So I had made this horrible 3.5-minute voiceover demo, my first ever demo, with like 3 60-second radio commercials and a 30 to kind of tag it out at the end, literally. But I had it.
Icing on the cake.
Yeah, I had it. And a friend calls me and says, you have a voiceover demo? Yeah. Why? His best friends had made this show for ABC.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to cast voiceovers, so I was their guy. And I got that gig, and I actually worked with Jeff Bridges. It was the greatest thing in the world. And he said, Mr. Bridges, is it all right if we let the announcer come in? Yeah, fine, it's cool, it's cool. So I go in, say 6 words, Elvis, Elton John, and go out, and he says...
Not like that, though. He did it a little bit better than that.
Your enunciation needs a little work, Bill.
And he said, thank you. And he said, cool voice, man. And I should have said, hey, thank you. And left. But instead,
what did you do?
I did the typical fan routine. I went, you were Last American Picture Show was the greatest movie. It was black and white, right? And I understand it, blah, blah, blah. And he just started shaking his head like, no. Like, number one, I don't want to talk. I don't know you. Everything you're saying is wrong. And so I had this gig, and I thought, this is the one shot I have. A halfway decent voiceover job for which I was paid probably $289. I have to let somebody know. So I took ads out in the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Backstage, Ad Age. I mean, I think in tiny little ads, like business card size ads. And my girlfriend's brother at the time was a photo student at one of these places out in the valley. And that he found on a matchbook in a bar. Wow. You too can be a photographer, literally.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. And they had a studio, and so I went in there, and he took a picture of me, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm going to lie down. And I had kind of nice boots on and a leather jacket. I'm going to lie down like this. And then I wrote the caption, says, looks relaxed, doesn't he? Well, when he stands up to a microphone, get it? He works and works right. Listen for him Friday, February 17th on ABC for the Heroes of Rock and Roll.
That's great.
And I spent all my money on these ads.
Wow.
And I got calls from 2 agents. I got from Don Pitts. From Abrams Rubaloff.
Yeah.
And somebody, and Mal Cassell from Cassell Levy.
Cassell Levy and Associates.
Wow. Who said, who signed you? Because they thought this was big stuff.
You must.
And it was the first time I realized, wait a minute. Big stuff is total illusion. It's all smoke and mirrors. If I say, I am the greatest performer in the history of the world, and somebody sees this like in a Russian want ad in Minsk or something, this is true. I am greatest performer in all the world.
Get this one.
So, I mean, and then I started doing little ads for every gig I had. That Variety used to have a thing called What's Doing or What's Filming or What's Shooting. And I did a profile of myself with my significant nose, like this. And I would list my sometimes silly and meaningless gigs, but it looked good on paper.
That's so cool.
But now you have all this free marketing, Facebook and Twitter and web.
It's not free, Stacey. I work myself to the bone.
No. She doesn't mean free as in free.
No, but I mean now there's
free.
Well, I mean, I was able to, with the help of the great Dean White.
Yes.
Who's such a brilliant social
media guy. Dean is pretty bright.
He's great.
And he did the whole SAG-AFTRA merger campaign and so on. And I found out about him through Bo Weaver. And I went to him and I said, I'm doing this one-man show last summer, Voices in My Head, A Life. Can you help me? And he was so full of great ideas, and he got me on. I was already on Twitter, but I had like 6 followers or something.
Yeah.
So you were promoting freestyle. Let's call it freestyle back then, and which is, I got to say, man, the things that you were doing were pretty creative. So it's no wonder that he is where he's at. But nowadays,
you're very savvy now. I mean, you've really made the shift into the digital era. I mean, was that difficult for you, or was that?
No, it's fun.
I mean, Dean White was a huge help. I know.
Yeah, I mean, there is a disconnect. For instance, people have to remind me.
Yeah.
If I'm going, well, like, what about plastic shoes? How can I find? And they'll say, like, Bill, just Google the 2 words plastic shoes. oh, yeah. But I was doing a show, and I had been to Fringe shows in the Hollywood Fringe Festival the year before.
Yeah.
Fabulous one-man shows, brilliantly done with 6 people in the audience.
You got to tell us about that.
Well, yeah, your show. I'm going to brag about you again for a second.
Uh-oh. Stacey likes bragging.
Make sure I get this right. The Hollywood Fringe Festival 2012, your show was nominated as Best Solo Show.
It was nominated as Best Solo Show and selected for what they call Best of Fringe, which is like the top 5% of the shows. And then we got extended runs. It was really fun.
Wow.
Really fun.
Voices in my head, a life.
And the year, like I say, a year before, I'd been to guys' shows that were exquisite. Nobody in the audience.
Yeah.
I thought, that ain't gonna be me. I can't do that. And so I went to Dean and Tumblr and Facebook and Twitter, and it's all of it.
Yeah.
Either that or traditional display advertising or hiring somebody to get on the phone. It's all an extension of the day that John Barstow and I talked into orange juice cans with a string.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You don't have to speak so loud.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with Twitter and sort of the metrics of Twitter. I don't spend a lot of time with it.
No.
I mean, I have like
3 tweets a day.
Yeah, 3 tweets a day. I have like, I think 289 followers at BillRatner.com.
Follow him. Follow him.
When I go over 1,000, I'm gonna.
Oh my gosh,
you're
going
to be so excited.
Yeah.
But I mean, Snoop Dogg, he's like 5 million or something.
Yeah, he's pretty up there.
And a car company called his management company and said, "We want to give you $5 million cash if you'll tweet for 2 days that you're driving this car."
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. You can get paid.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need a few more followers, Bill.
You need just a few
right
more.
now. You could do like
4,800,000 and
chiclets or
What's
something.
the difference between 289 and 5 million? Size matters.
Size matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, as far as your show, Voices in My Head of Life, what inspired you to create that? And are you still performing it, or was that?
No, I'm not performing. I'm doing one next year. I actually have a book deal for the show that I'm going to do next year.
Congratulations.
A little publishing company in Provo, Utah.
Nice.
I met a woman at a storytelling conference who I thought was 26 years old, and we did 3 hours together in this workshop.
Yeah.
Developing projects, imaginary projects. It's something I'd done in the schools for years when I was on G.I. Joe. I thought, oh no, we're responsible for draining people's bankrolls to get their children, with G.I. Joe toys.
Yeah.
And so I did this program in the schools as a volunteer called TV Cartoon Scandals, the Economics of Children's Television. To tell kids, this is what happens when advertisers can come for you. And so this woman says, my husband and I just started a publishing company. We'd like to do this as a book. And I went, book? Like with pages and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, and ebooks and downloads. So I have a book deal. And I thought, well, it's about the advertising business, and it's about G.I. Joe, and it's about Ronald Reagan deregulating television, and it's about kids and FaceTime and screen time and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a show next year in the Fringe in June.
That's
called
cool.
Screen Time Scandals, The Coming of G.I. Joe.
Ooh, sounds pretty dramatic.
That's the Fringe.
Gotta check that out.
All right, we're gonna see that. That's cool.
Now I'm starting to understand a little thing with the green light. Not too high, but not too dim.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get it now.
Yeah.
It's starting to all make sense. I want to know a little bit about when you go out of town, how do you handle auditions and jobs?
I am not obsessive about it. I really, my wife was in the Peace Corps. She loves to travel. We used to travel with her parents when they were alive. They'd pay for their flight and we'd pay for their hotel. I like to travel. There are guys whose vacations, whose minimal 6 days of vacation a year while making tons of money in voiceover,
Yeah.
are built around sweeps or non-sweeps or campaigns or non-campaigns. I learned accidentally, being at ABC for 12 years doing promos, they didn't care. They had 4 of us. First was Ernie Anderson for 15 years, the great Ernie Anderson.
Yeah.
And then ultimately he was replaced by me and Dave Fennoy and Miguel Ferrer and Andy Geller and others.
Yeah.
And so there was a pool of us who were used all the time. But I would tell the agent, don't tell anybody I'm leaving until like 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't want to lose any money.
Right.
And then I'd come back, they'd call, he's back, boom, back in the rotation.
Right.
Now, I mean, there's certain employers, I'm sure, who are obsessive and freaked out, and movie studios don't like it if you leave in the middle of a trailer campaign.
No.
Which I did once in a Warner Brothers campaign.
Once.
Yeah, the green light almost went
He
out.
left once.
Yeah, the green light turned red.
Whoops.
And I didn't work for those people for 20 years.
Wow.
Literally.
Wow.
How come I don't work for the idea place? And, and 20 years later, perhaps personnel has changed.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I mean, you've done the trailer for Blades of Glory, Talladega Nights, the campaign, the whole kind of Will Ferrell camp. They seem like a very loyal bunch, or am I?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have sort of an odd.
Or is that just my little heart trying to hope that?
Well, no, thank you. I love your heart for doing that.
She has a great heart.
Stacey.
Like, oh, he's Will Ferrell's guy.
It's. I had a session. I'll answer your question about,
All right,
about
whenever
what
you want, or
happens
you
when
don't
go
have
away.
to. You're not
He's
obligated.
going to
That'd be a
answer
good
that
question.
question in episode 2.
I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to sub B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stand by.
I was in a session auditioning for Talladega Nights, the
Yeah.
TV campaign. Trailers themselves and teasers, it's a couple of sessions. It's in the theater. It's great. It's fun. That's
Yeah.
me, honey.
Yeah.
But it's a TV campaign you want because
Yeah.
it's spot after spot after spot. You can do 95, 120 spots.
Wow.
Oh, day after day after day after
Yeah.
day. It's piecework, very well paid. I had a producer who was a brilliant guy. And I knew that he was on the phone directing me through the audition. I knew that I was not cutting it.
Yeah.
I was trying to make it sound like a fun, happy movie. And it was like, and I didn't know what to do, literally. And there's a pause in the phone. I thought, this is over. I'm done. It's back to, selling spoons on the telephone. And quality spoons.
Yeah, good.
And
Solid stainless steel.
he said, listen, man, try it this way. Try it. Pretend that this is like the most serious movie you've ever seen in your life. And it's life or death. People must see this movie. And I suddenly remembered this part that I'd played in a student film that a friend of mine directed at San Francisco State. It was totally humorless guy. I was a coach of the football team. And my friend, I memorized my lines, and he said, this guy's a jerk, and he's screaming at the football team. And I said, well, where's the football team? He says, let's go. And he gives me a jacket and a hat, San Francisco State University, and takes me into the locker room, and here is the San Francisco State football team. They were not a great team. The average lineman was probably about 175 and 5'7", but it was a real football team.
Yeah.
Literally. And so I started to yell, you guys can tickle each other in the chin and smash each other in the face, but if I see you patting each other in the butt, you're off this team. And that was my line. And I mean, there was a little preamble, a serious, humorless, Midwestern, Friday Night Lights. And I remembered that character in this session. I went, this is serious. This is serious. Will Ferrell is Talladega Nights, blah, blah, blah. And
I remember that, man.
Yeah, it's a great trailer.
It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And it was that character, that humorless, self-important guy.
Yeah.
And, you hear other guys doing that voice.
But they don't sound as good as you.
Well,
But the comedy is the opposite.
Right, exactly,
Is to make it this dramatic thing, and it's this
so for those
ridiculous
kinds of
movie.
pictures, and it's not every picture in the world. I mean, there's part of me that would love to do horror and rom-com, but that goes to those other fellows, the rom-com and horror, the rom-com horror fellows.
Yeah. Well, Talladega is definitely one of my favorite movies, and I do remember that trailer, and it was awesome, so that was cool.
Yeah.
But You didn't answer my original question.
It was actually
which
my
was,
question.
Or her question, which was,
Sorry.
and I want to know this because I ask all the top guys is, when you go out of town,
Oh, it was your
how do you do auditions and what do you do about it?
Well, the technology is brilliant.
Yeah.
And the great George Whittam sets people up, and other companies set people up, and Bo Weaver knows everything about it, much more than I do. And
Yeah.
I just sort of go on his site and steal ideas.
He steals
but
from Bo Weaver.
I travel. I'm too afraid to do an iPad, although I own one.
Yeah.
Is it
but
still
Bo
in the
does
box?
an iPad. I do. I have a little Mac Air.
Oh, yeah.
I started out with a heavy duty, Mac laptop, which weighs 4.5 pounds. Mac Air is light.
Very light.
I've got Audio TX on it and Source Connect.
Nice.
Both made by the Brits. Why the Americans can't come up with a piece of software that'll imitate ISDN? I don't
Right.
know. And the same mic I have in my studio, and a little
Which
tiny
is?
mic stand, which is the Sennheiser 416.
Sennheiser.
Only
416.
because people put me on that.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, it's not like, I'm going to use a Sennheiser. I
But you
don't.
sound great on it.
Yeah, that's your.
Well, it's for my voice, for whatever reason. It gets some nice sharp highs and keeps
Yeah.
the lows. And anyway, I bring that. I bring a little popper stopper,
Right.
a tiny little plastic mic stand,
Right.
and a mic pre that is literally this big, made by the Shure Corporation.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That the XLR
Plugs
of the
into
mic,
it. The other
and then
side.
is USB.
Boom.
Boom. And
What software do you use to record onto?
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools.
This is my
Wow.
thing. Yeah, because
Yeah, yeah.
VoiceBank.net years ago got me on Pro Tools.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's no better or worse than anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
No,
you're
it,
comfortable
with
it
it,
does, yeah.
Yeah.
And when I'll completely contradict myself. When it poops out on my laptop for whatever reason,
Yeah.
I got Twisted Wave.
Right.
So boom.
Exactly. Which is basically Pro Tools
Yeah.
without all the frills.
Pro
and
Tools
stuff.
Lite.
And I have two USB cell sticks, one from Verizon, one from Sprint, in case, depending on what neighborhood you're in or where you are, you can be in the middle of the city in New York and Sprint might not work.
Yeah. So you have internet available.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
That's pretty cool. So you're ready. When you go out, you are ready to rock and roll.
yeah.
Very, very cool.
It's gotten so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, you used to have to phone ahead to a hotel. And I mean, Joe Cipriano tells stories of because he's so busy. And
Yeah.
in the past,
Yeah.
he would have to book. They'd put ISDN lines into his room, literally, and he would bring his Telos Zephyr in his
Yeah.
luggage,
Wow.
and and sit in the hotel room and do his thing.
Yeah.
I lay down on my belly in an apartment in Seville, Spain, on my belly because the room was way too live.
Yeah.
But if I lay down between my friend's daughter's twin beds,
Then everything
the
was
sound
okay.
was perfect. And I remember the guy at the trailer house going, "You okay? Everything okay?" And I could have said, "I'm lying on my guts," and instead I'm going, "Yeah, it's cool, man. You guys ready to roll? You rolling?
You rolling?
I never say a thing.
Yeah.
I never lie.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't say, well, I'm in New York at a world-class studio.
Yeah.
I just don't say anything. No excuses.
Yeah.
Don't put the idea in their head
Yeah.
that something might be different.
Yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
a bedroom between two twin
Yeah.
beds. How do I sound?
That's right.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. But the good news is we're going to be back next week with part 2 with Bill Ratner.
It's a don't miss.
Absolutely.
Make sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, you guys. And just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.